Meanwhile, very much at the opposite end of the spectrum, Spurs.
Well, guess what?
Conte said he was pleased with the response. I had Spurs fans saying we were better in the second half.
Yippee.
Well, that means nothing anymore. It doesn't mean anything.
Well, he said they started well, Conte. I'm trying to think back. There was an early chance, and then Arsenal pulverised them for the rest of the first half.
Yeah.
Same old
it's
story.
Just pathetic now.
It's a bit tedious and tiring now, really, and I'm almost sure that's how Spurs fans at the ground and the ones that watch and listen and follow this, I'm sure that's how they feel about it as well. And it was said on the commentary, when Tottenham started to get some challenges in the first 10 minutes of the second half, when they started to press and put crosses in the box, it was like, whoa, how many times have we sat here and said, why do they not start games like this and continue it through a 45 minutes till half-time, rather than having to come out, having been basically given a bit of a lesson in the first half, and then having to have a complete rethink. And recently it's been too late in these games. Early in the season against the likes of Bournemouth and others, it wasn't. They came back from being behind. Sometimes they were 2 goals down, they came back. You can't keep doing that and getting away with it. Not against good sides.
Saying we were better in the second half is a comfort to no one. And I don't understand why Antonio Conte is saying that. We've seen Spurs come back and be a second half team for a lot of this season. But if you're Arsenal and you're 2 up at half time and you know that Spurs can step it up again and you've shown that, all you have to do is you just don't do anything silly. You don't lose this game. So Antonio Conte now saying, well, we were better in the second half, it says he might as well come out and say, well, we didn't lose 4-0. Arsenal didn't continue to be as good as they were in the second half and batter us 4-0. That is a comfort to absolutely nobody. It makes no sense in the context of this game.
What was the feeling amongst the crowd, Jules?
A lot of frustration, for sure. I mean, where we were sat in the press box, people around us were leaving 10 minutes before the end, 5 minutes before. They were not even waiting in case there's a goal from Spurs. You come back to 2-1 down, and then you can still maybe somehow get a draw at 2-2. They didn't even wait. They went home. And I just think, like, usually after a Spurs game, when I go back, take the train to go home, the 2 platforms are still packed of fans. This time, people had gone early, clearly. They left early. They didn't believe in that team of that another comeback because it was never really on the cards. And yeah, in the second half, Ramsdale had to make a couple of saves, and the one on Sessegnon, Xhaka is right, Craig is the only big one. The rest is like saves that you expect him to make. But I don't think the crowd believed. Oh, yeah, of course, when there was a couple of tackles, you could hear the roar, but that was it. And for the fans to try to assault Ramsdale at the end, Richarlison, this is so petty in a way, and we showed the frustration in the fact that they chased Arsenal all game long, especially in the first half, and they just never got close to them. And you could feel the frustration growing and growing with the referee as well, and the Arsenal fan was singing, you're rubbish, but with another word, and you will always be rubbish, and that must get on your nerves so much. And all we could hear was 3,000 Arsenal fans.
Just take me through it, though. Obviously, Conte has to take responsibility. He's the man in charge. But why do you need a manager to motivate you to go out and perform in the first half when it's a North London derby, when you're playing a team that's top of the table? Surely you don't.
I don't think it is. I think it's just the way that he sets them up, and that they're standoffish. And one of the things that, if you're not playing silky, attractive football, is you have a reputation that you're hard to beat. Well, they weren't even hard to beat today. I just think he's a very standoffish, deep-lying coach that then has to react. And quite frankly, I don't think it's going to bring him success at this club. It might have worked at Juve for a period or Inter Milan with different players. I don't think it's going to work with this batch. I just don't.
Is it just a good manager at the wrong... Is it not a good fit, basically, Jules?
Yeah, I don't think he's the answer. We said that the other day after the Aston Villa defeat when I was on the show as well. It's not just on him, of course, and we mentioned Daniel Levy and we mentioned Joe Lewis, the owner and the CEO at that club. We can mention the recruitment team as well, because I know they've got injuries, like Bentancur obviously was a big miss today, but that squad, for the money they've spent on it, is still not good enough. It's not good enough, and today we saw it, and we've seen it through the season as well. But I'm sorry, I agree with what Craig was saying. I don't know what Conte does pre-game. I don't understand why he must say to his players for them to keep making the same mistake in first halves over and over and over again. And then those excuses that he find after the games, I would, if I was the owner or Daniel Lee, I would go mad. For my manager to say almost like, oh, I'm happy we didn't concede the third and the fourth one. I was like, what, really? We've just lost the North London derby. We're 8 points behind fourth place. I mean, if Spurs don't qualify for Champions League next season, for them, considering the structure and the money that they need to bring in to pay for the same, all of that, it's a disaster. And yet, he's like, okay, it's only a 2-0 defeat. It's okay, we take that and we move on. Or who do you have next? Oh, City. And after that, Fulham. And then City again. Okay, well, good luck for the next 3 games then.
They need a new keeper, don't they, Shaq?
They've needed a new goalkeeper for a very long time. And listen, don't get me wrong here. Hugo Lloris, at his prime, was one of the best in the world. No, there's no question about that. But you've seen this bad side of Hugo Lloris far too consistently for quite some time. And for Spurs not to have addressed this a whole lot sooner just seems really odd to me. We could go back to the 2018 World Cup final, where, you know, a glaring Rick, albeit France are 4 up. It's that long ago that you've seen the need for Spurs to replace Hugo Lloris. So how we sit here 4 years on from that and still be having the same conversations is beyond me. And it's not as though there aren't goalkeepers out there. You only have to look again to Arsenal across town to see what they've been able to do in that 4 years. They've had Bernd Leno, they've had Emiliano Martinez, they've had Ad Ramsdale. All good goalkeepers coming in, a couple of them going out, and Spurs still haven't been able to address that situation. That's bemusing to me.
Look, Conte's not irreplaceable, you know. He's not. I mean, I don't know what his contract situation is as we speak.
Well, he's still yet to sign it.
It seems to be a bit of a mess, but he's not. You've only got to look at clubs like what Brighton did with Potter and now De Zerbi, thinking outside the box, to coaches that have been coaches in different countries that have come in, done good jobs, as Potter did, and De Zerbi is now doing. There are other outlets out there, by the way, and have they spent fortunes? Brighton? No, they have not, but they've recruited well, both in the coaching and in the player. And maybe Tottenham will have to have a look at him as well.
Jules, you mentioned it.
I don't mean De Zerbi, I mean Conte.
Yeah. Thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.